Good morning. I'd like to chat with you for the next few minutes about a topic I'm calling implementation is their challenge. What we're very aware of today, and you'd have to be living under a rock not to notice what's going on, but there are major players on several levels or platforms that have been voicing and planning and making public their particular plans and agendas for what is coming or what they plan on doing as an organization or government. I've got a list here of organizations. There was too many for me to remember, so I thought I'd make a list. You're all familiar with the International Monetary Fund, so that's the IMF. And of course, their connection with the central banks, so the world banks, and then we have banking on another level, and of course in the United States you have the Reserve, the Federal Reserve, and then you have banks in general who deal with the consumer. Then we have the World Economic Forum that's led by a gentleman by the name of Klaus Schwab, and he is the great planner of this world reset that you've heard about. And our prime minister plans on being or sacrificing Canada to that particular agenda. He wants Canada to be one of the first countries to actually go into the international reset uh, program. We have the United Nations, of course, and their agenda and their plans and what they deem to be a healthy future for the world. So theirs is very much a globalist situation, and most of these organizations I'm going to mention are globalists at heart. Uh, I mentioned the reset agenda. Then you have the World Health Organization. Already have proven quite clearly that they are not truly not in the interest of people around the world. They can be pawned off and bought and persuaded and influenced by government groups, and certainly financial elite people can move in and influence them because money makes things happen. Then you've got the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs. These are secret societies that have been around for a long time, and they absolutely have a lot of power. In their membership, they would probably control, you know, uh, most of the world's wealth in many regards. They have plans. And of course, on a lower level, we would have the G7, we'd have the G20. We have the Islamic Caliphate that Erdogan has been talking about, that it will be back and up and running and reinstated and in full power by 2024. And that's a powerful entity. I mean, the Ottoman Empire that finished in 1924, he wants to resurrect it, and he's got countries coming together, Shia and Sunni, who are joining together to make this thing a reality. So the Islamic Caliphate is on its way to coming back. Then you've got the ecumenical movement, and Pope Francis is the instigator and developer of that, and he wants all faith groups, regardless of whether it's Christian or not, he wants all faith groups to come together and there to be under the banner of unity. And that's just a smokescreen. He wants to bring certain faith groups together, but of course the Christian members of that particular movement are going to have to soften their doctrinal stand on some of the things like Christ being the way, the truth, and the life, the only way to the Father. That just wouldn't fly in that environment. So that has to change. So the ecumenical movement is definitely a precursor to a one world religion that will come later during the actual tribulation period of time when the Antichrist is around. Then you've got organizations like Freemasons, and then you have government groups themselves. So yeah, every country in the world has an agenda, not only for its own people, but for where they fit into the world and what the coming world needs to look like. So they all have their own personal agendas. And then the Catholic Church, of course, has its agenda, and the Pope and they're at odds with each other. Much of the Catholic Church is upset with the way Francis has been changing and softening doctrine and some of the positions he's taking. And so every conceivable group, organization, institution that's in authority over something in in their area or whatever, they all have an agenda and they have plans. And then you throw in the agenda of the enemy himself. And Satan is using a lot of these same members that I talked to you, using them to accomplish his purposes and plans. So all of this is coming together, and they're not all on the same side. Some of them actually conflict with each other. So what you have is you have a world right now that's in absolute dire needs of true leadership. It's chaotic. There's confusion everywhere. There is fear everywhere, and there is greed everywhere. So put those things all into the batter, and you're going to come up with a pretty weird cake of just absolute chaos. And so, perfect environment for the soon to be coming and coming on the scene, the coming of the Antichrist. And he is not just anti Jesus Christ. He is an alternative to Jesus Christ. He is presenting himself as the answer. He doesn't actually have to come against Christianity or Jesus Christ to make his point. He's just saying, I am the alternative that you've been looking for. I have the answers, and I'm going to be given authority by certain nations to be able to execute some of these plans. Now, all these organizations are going to run out of time. Most of them are going to run out of time and never get the opportunity to fully implement their plans. But the state of their planning will be perfect, a perfect environment for the Antichrist to then step in and pull the pieces together the way he sees them fitting, and then you'll see truly what the world will be presented with, probably somewhere in the middle of that midterm of that 7 years of tribulation we talk about. And so I just wanted to say to you that Christians need to understand that implementation, the actual enactment and putting into operation their plans, the implementation is their real challenge. These organizations, most of everybody I just mentioned, is not going to see the fulfillment of their planning and their agenda. Some of it we take, the way the media presents it, we take it as being a done deal. This is the way a pandemic's going to be handled. This is what the next pandemic, we're going to be doing this. And we're jumping ahead of ourselves. In many, many of these cases, these organizations, these government groups and others are not going to pull off their plans the way they had hoped. But it will come to fruition perfectly as God ordained it to come together. See, everybody's forgotten that there's one agenda, one set of plans that has already been written about and put in place that is going to happen. All of these groups, no matter how evil or how good they may seem to be, all of them, their plans are going to bend and bow to the plans written in this book. And so, as believers, if you can just keep in mind that it won't be the snap of a fingers that any of these organizations get to pull off their agendas. I heard one recently, NESARA and DISARA, these acts signed by Congress back in Bill Clinton's time, that emergency takeover of the U.S. government and the immediate collapse of the U.S. dollar, and there's going to be a new type of dollar, and paper dollar with some kind of metal incorporated into it or something. I mean, I'm not saying these organizations aren't real. I'm not saying that they're not credible opponents to, to the world, to us, and to our best interest. But implementation is going to be their greatest challenge because not only are they now competing and debating with each other, they're now going against the clock. The time is running out. The Antichrist is going to be on the scene probably in a signatory kind of way when he signs that agreement with Israel and surrounding nations. That's probably within a 2-year period. We're probably going to see a war, if not Psalm 83. We're going to see probably Ezekiel 38, 39 in the next little while. Well, all of these plans can get set off and detoured and postponed in the midst of some kind of world war breakout that's happening in the Middle East that's going to have a devastating impact on everything from the economy to the medical world to food supplies and everything else. There's going to be so many things that come in the way of these organizations actually pulling off what they think they're going to pull off. They're forgetting that God has a plan, and the believer just needs to sit back and understand that regardless of how evil one organization or another may have plans for us or plans for the world, it's God who says, yes, you have those plans, and part of those plans I'm going to use to facilitate the doing of my plan. And so don't fear when you see something negative coming at you or something that has stripped you of some more rights or anything else. Just rejoice that everything that's happening, he's allowing to happen because it will fit his ultimate plan of setting up and taking down the Antichrist and Satan himself. So all of this is part and parcel with that ultimate plan of him establishing his kingdom on earth. When you understand that as a believer, it doesn't matter to you what you see before you, or what government falls, what currency falls, what doesn't, what investment is good, what is bad, what's the next virus, none of that matters because you understand that according to the word of God, this is all meant to introduce the second coming of Jesus Christ and him setting up his kingdom. So God bless you. Just keep in mind, don't fear these changes and what might happen tomorrow and all this speculation. And it's all part of him pulling off his plan. Even the wrong politicians getting in office, in your opinion, is all part of the plan. And you're not to fear or worry. We have that situation right now in our own country. Don't fear it. Don't worry about it. It's all part and will work tremendously well into the very intricate and detailed plan that God has for this planet, for people, both believer, non-believer, and the coming of his son and the setting up of his kingdom that we're going to be a part of. God bless you. Implementation is their greatest challenge. And God's going to allow their plans to be constantly interrupted. And yes, some evil things will be established, but he's not unaware of that. He knows it's coming. He's going to allow it to happen because it's going to fit his ultimate purpose. God bless you. Bye-bye.